Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Always feel pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time. Obsessed with the issue of violence, mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you are well. I hope the week has been treating you well, and I hope you are looking forward to tonight's episode, which is number 137 of Double Feature Horror Show. Only 100 more to go before we have another cool horror number. We have to do The Shining for that one, don't we? We've got to. There's no way around it. We are covering this week Beyond the Black Rainbow. Shall we take that again, folks? We are covering this week Beyond the Black Rainbow from Panos Cosmatos. How did I get the director's name right and I can't pronounce the title? Gosh, that's a good start. Goodness me. This is a member request. I absolutely love doing these for you. This was done actually quite a while ago. I'm sorry it took me so long to get around to it, but it's always something I feel it's nice I can do for members. If you are wanting to support the channel, then join as a member either here on YouTube or on Subscribestar. And one of the things you'll get from that, as well as the exclusive content, is you'll be able to put a request in, and we'll be delighted to cover it, even if that request is Plan 9 from outer space. Right, Mr. GB? Good to see you in the chat, Mr. Gently Benevolent. Thank you. Maybe I should be a bit more cautious about seeking requests when you're around. Anyway. So yes, that's something you can do. Links are in the description, and of course, I would say Subscribestar is preferred if you are going to be so kind as to support me as a member. So, without too much more adieu, we do not have a DCG tonight. When he came back last week, I was going to go with just like CM Punk. He's back, but never mind. Maybe we'll do it next week. He'll be excited about all the WWE news, won't he? He'll be chuffed. We'll have to wait for his take next week. But I am joined by good friend of the show and anthology expert, Murgoot.
Hello, all. How's it going? And Mr. Gently Benevolent, it is foreign. It's Canadian.
We've had good results with our Canadian independence. I'm thinking of The Void.
Oh, yeah. The Void's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, heck, yes. Very, very different to this, but in a way, it's got a few things in common there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
lighting, the 80s feel,
the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. This is a complex film. We will dig into it. Before we get into that, just in case you're new to the stream, because I'm just seeing a few names I don't actually know. So, hi if you're new, by the way. And where am I going with that? Hi if you're new. Do drop a comment if you're new. Drop something in the chat. It's always nice to hear from new faces. And just a fair warning, we'll do a topic section before we get into it, and then we'll move into the film analysis. What we do on this channel is we do go deep. We are not a 8-minute review. We are not a 20-minute review. We try and talk about films for a good solid hour. We like to give them the attention that we feel they deserve. Unless it's Goosebumps, in which case we will talk for an hour and 20 minutes before getting near the episodes. But you can't. Look, sometimes spirit moves us differently. Oh dear. And I'm seeing requests for Battlefield Earth. Oh no.
Oh no. That would
Maybe
be
I'll create.
another 0 rating for me, and I don't want to do that to your channel.
It's my favorite film where a cow's leg gets blown off. What are you talking about? I'm just seeing the Alabaster. I'm sorry you're having trouble with Subscribe Star there. That is I'm sorry that's not working for you. That's really annoying. Gosh. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I hope you managed to fix it for the annoyance on its own, and also have a certain investment in that payment issue being resolved. But yeah, sorry to hear that. By the way, I know the Alabaster, you must have been a member the longest. I think you've definitely been over a year, so I think we might have to have an extra member request from you. The Alabaster, if you've got a film in mind, you drop me a message, and I think it might be time. So anyway, moving on. Like I said, we'll have a quick chat, we'll have a topic, and then we'll get into the film. And also, hi SE Remain. I saw you weren't sure if you'd make it live, and I'm glad you're excited. I hope we do it justice. I know this film will be divisive. This is factored into our analysis, but we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go.
And John Goris, if you want to watch it, it's on tubetv.com, which is a free streaming site.
Yes, you'll have to be in the US for that, but I'm sure you will be able to travel over. I find VPN Air is a really affordable way to get over to America to watch Tubi legally. And I think there's also like a 360p version of it on YouTube, which frankly you might want to go for, because it's blooming hard to find a copy of this film. Gosh. Anyway, Mr. GB asking, does his membership of 1 year, 5 months, 17, does that qualify for a request? I mean, I hesitate to say yes, Mr. Gently Benevolent, because you've got some priors on this one. You're a troublemaker. I'm gonna have to vet your requests, but anyway, I will spare further waffle, and we will get into it. Maybe I'm just a bit thrown off because I'm actually recovering, Murgoot. I'm in recovery
From
a severe baiting, I'm afraid. I got absolutely baited. Oh, it hurts, man. It hurts. I know Screen Rant's absolute trash, but I saw this, and you know my deep and abiding love for the Scream series and my desperation to see what happened following the captivating antics of Scream 6. When I saw this article, Mindy actor breaks silence on Scream 7's behind-the-scenes controversies after Core 4 reunion. You know I had to click on that, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course you did.
She didn't say anything. The whole article, look, I'm going to scroll through this. She says nothing. Look, here's our recap. Oh, they lost the actors. It's so controversial. What they can do? It's behind-the-scenes gossip. Is she going to confirm that Melissa Barrera was kicked off specifically for her slightly radical posts, although it seems fairly popular with some people, very hated by others, divisive issue? Is she going to confirm that Jenna Ortega stepped down in solidarity in contrast to the cover story? She didn't say anything. Look at this. Look, oh, here we go, scrolling, giving them their... Look, I know I'm making it worse because I'm scrolling down and I'm giving them the screen time they want. I'm supporting their analytics here. But look, she's broken her silence. Oh, dear. She's careful not to directly address. What? But I thought she was going to break her silence. Check out her full comment below. I think that everything we did, the Core 4, is amazing and important and should be celebrated forever. And I'm glad we got to capture that on screen. And I'm proud to have 4 people of colour in that horror film. I mean, The Blackening had like 6. So step your game up, to be honest. It was so random and fun to reunite. We did not plan that. But she doesn't say anything.
It's so milquetoast that Yeah, pure clickbait for nothing.
Yeah, I was baited. They baited that click out of me. I feel so dirty. There's literally nothing. That was a big. She just swerved it. She swerved it. Oh, goodness me. Yeah. Oh. Anyway, so I got baited. I felt bad. It wasn't the worst bit of Scream activity this week. It's the main reason I brought this up, actually. Slightly sad news, sad to say. So you may remember that my rather epic Scream 6 video, clocking in at 2 hours and 41 minutes, going extremely in depth with a whole lot of work on it. Ridiculous amounts of work went into that video, not just in research, but obviously in the editing. And it took me 7 or 8 edits of it to get it past the copyright claims on YouTube, because it was just getting claimed, it was getting blocked, it was brutal, absolutely brutal. Obviously, it's completely covered by fair use, but I couldn't get it past. I disputed the claims, I appealed them, and they were just rejected both times with no explanation, because that's how YouTube works. Well, on the 8th go or so, I actually got a version of that through, and we all enjoyed the Scream 6 review before Christmas. And I thought that was over, and unfortunately, Paramount have come back and 6 weeks after the fact claimed it again and blocked it. And that is, it's nothing I can do anything about. I've disputed again, given all the reasoning. I've cited the case law, one we're all familiar with, Hughes versus Benjamin. If you know, you know. Yes. I cited it. I demonstrably have transformed the content, and it is covered by fair use, demonstrably, but once again, rejected, totally rejected. So it's going to be deleted in 7 days. I will probably get a copyright strike for it, but I'll leave it up because I believe I can do a follow-up step where I notify YouTube that I think it was in error, and hopefully YouTube will review it, and when they see it, they'll say, oh, that claim was spurious nonsense and abuse of our system. So I'll give it a go. But yes, the takeaway from that is, aside from Paramount suck and YouTube is broken, is that as a result of this, I will be making a backup channel, probably on Odyssey, where you can watch it and watch it in length. And when I re-upload it, I'm going to include new errors that I cut out, because there are more than enough. So we'll point out even more horrible flaws in that disgrace of the film that they should have been embarrassed to release. So watch out for that, folks. And also, it going on Odyssey will be a nice treat for anyone who remembers some of the canon from the Invasion of the Body Snatchers video. But that's a little bit of behind the scenes to address there that I just thought I would mention. Yes, YouTube is terrible. It's terrible. So yes, look for the Odyssey release soon, and I hope you'll pop over there and support it then. That is enough of the Scream stuff. With that said, shall we have a bit more of our topic? Shall we move back onto Vincent Price?
Yes, please.
All right, fantastic. Oh, before we do though, John Goris has sent in $10. Thank you so much. Can I make a suggestion? The 1973 Grasp of the Lorelei from Armando de Osario of Tombs of the Blind Dead infamy. Kind of a werewolf vampire mermaid thing. And it's on, and apparently it's going to be on the old BitChute. You know, John, you've been around here a long time. You've sent in many a generous super chat. Absolutely, you can have that as a suggestion. And I'm now going to put a note in the private chat so I remember that. Although, am I able to save it? I'm kind of booming here. There we go. I'm saving that, and we'll cover that for you. And forgive me while I type. There we go. So thanks very much for the super chat. I'll have a look at that. I think we should be able to do that. Yeah, the February schedule is going to be a bit weird, so maybe we'll do it as a February one. Anyway, right. So with that said, we'll now get into our topic. By the way, do we have a better title for this? Because last time we didn't. I mean, I was be like, The Price is Righteous or Vincent Priceless. I still don't have a good title for it. Do we have anything?
Not without the cringe factor, no.
I mean, at this point, I'll take a little bit of cringe because currently it's just like Vincent Price biography part 2.
No.
Yes, episode 2, Rhapsodic Gushings. Okay. Well, let's just say, let's you and I keep our eyes out and chat. If you've got a better suggestion, please do send it my way. Oh, and I see chat is already appreciating that young Vincent Price there. Well, there's a little history for that. Let me just dig that up for you. Gosh, it's right at the back of the very thick book. Here we go. So that's a photo of him from 1934. He is 23 in that photo, and it's John D. Tacular. And he says it was a gag photo for his fiancée. He's sort of joking there about the fiancée. We'll talk about his actual fiancée later in this. Because she called me Tarzan because of my love for swimming. Had agreed with the photographer that he could use one photo for commercial purposes, thereby saving expense. Three weeks later, found this one photo 3 times life size in Piccadilly Circus advertising deodorant. I love it. I absolutely love it. Yes. Genius. Yes, he wanted professional shots taken. He's like, hey, you can use this in ads. And this is a particular favorite. Now, we'll go into it. Last time we sort of got to when he just gets over to... he goes over to England to star on the stage, and then he's brought back over by a massive hit called Victoria Regina, and he's now back on Broadway saying, you know, the movie men are interested in him. So let's catch up with that.
Let's go.
All right. So, Mr. Price surpassed all my expectations. Physically, he is a child of the gods. Exceptionally tall, he's exceptionally handsome, and exceptionally graceful. He is one man who can be called beautiful in the sense that a thoroughbred of 17 hands is beautiful. Garbed as an Apollo king of the East, his presence brought glory to the stage. For the gifts, Mr. Price deserves little credit, but for the way he handled himself on the undersized stage, and for the thrilling way in which he gave his lines, he merited acclaim and got plenty of it. These showed art and show he's been hard at work in the task of becoming an actor. After last night's performance, one could almost predict a return to the matinee idol of long ago. Mr. Price is as handsome as a blonde... Sorry, Mr. Price, as handsome a blonde god as this reviewer has ever encountered, evoked rhapsodic gushings from the feminine portion of... Keep a straight face. From the feminine portion of the audience. As a handsome... Please, I've got more of these I've got to get through. As a handsome valet, Vincent Price looks handsome enough to give a maiden apoplexy. Apoplexy, even. Every hair is finely tuned, and his carriage is exquisite. Did you get it? Because he's a valet. His carriage. They're talking about his bottom. Absolutely. Patrick Batman, get the mop out, or the Vax Glide 2, whatever you have to hand. Yes, those are reviews.
What polite ways of saying he's a panty dropper?
Yeah, it's. Tell you what, I've got one later on. I'll read you something even saucier, which I mean, I thought rhapsodic gushings was kind of the end of it. Reminder: this is from the 1930s here, so those were reviews for his play, The Lady Has a Heart, which he was doing in 1936 or so. He also had a review for a 1938 picture. Hollywood's latest importation from the New York stage. Tall, dark, and not too handsome. His blue eyes, wavy brown hair, 180 pounds distributed over 6 feet 4 inches, of well-proportioned stature, and a beguiling voice give him the sex appeal. This is it's a bit saucy, isn't it? It's a little saucy. It's not what I expected from 1930s reviews, but you can see why Mr. Price is causing quite a stir on the stage, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's a pretty boy that women love.
Oh, he truly is. He truly is. So he's strolling the boards. He's doing very well. Victoria Regina has introduced him to all sorts. I didn't mention last time, but there was a really cute connection to someone very interesting. Before he left, when he left because he couldn't get a work visa in the UK. Oh, how times have changed. And he went into a quick play written by one Arthur Schnitzler, if that rings any bells to people. Do not worry if it doesn't. Arthur Schnitzler was a chap whose plays were banned by the 1930s German regime, but taken up later by one Stanley Kubrick. Schnitzler's Traumnovelle was the basis for Eyes Wide Shut. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. In the Vincent Price story, you're just coming across so many connections to people that it astounds me. So one of the other people he ended up hanging out with, do you remember we talked about that period when he was going around Austria?
Mm-hmm.
He only ends up hanging out with Bram Stoker's widow. Imagine that. I know. It's great. It's great. So now back in America, Helen Hayes, who is the big name, who is the leading lady for Victoria Regina, is introducing him to all sorts. He was particularly happy to be introduced to Joan Crawford, of all people. I've got to admit, the name stands out to me, but I can't say I particularly... I don't really know Joan Crawford very well. I just know the name, if I'm honest with you.
Well, her biopic, Mommy Dearest, doesn't put her in greatest light. The most
That's about all I know of
line
her.
out of that film is no wire hangers. Wow.
It's the one that stuck with me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's probably not the best thing I should know about her, to be honest.
Yeah. Brilliant actress, horrible person. Every time I hear her name, all I can hear is Blue Oyster Cult's Joan Crawford has risen from the grave.
Oh my. Well, Vincent was taken with her, but this is long before Mommy Dearest. He was delighted to be asked. It was to a casual potluck, and this boy from St. Louis, I mean, well off, let's not deny. And we covered where his family wealth came from last episode. This humble potluck that he goes to at her mansion is an 80-person event. So,
wow.
Yes. He got caught out the first time with that, but Vincent always dressed very smart, so he didn't do himself down. And something that was always very endearing to that set is they loved his sophistication. They absolutely loved his hard-earned artistic knowledge and perspective. Which gets to a fun point where he goes around. I'm afraid in all of this, I can't remember whose house he was at. But he notices some lovely art on the wall and then gets a bit confused, thinking, hang on, I know exactly which art gallery those are from. I saw them just earlier. So he figures, actually, no, she's just borrowed them from the art library. And he goes back a week later and then they're back on the walls. Cheeky. He also meets Ruth Gordon. I mean, maybe I should be more excited about Joan Crawford. For me, Ruth Gordon, I just think Rosemary's Baby. That's really exciting. maybe there's another thing to think of, but all I thought of was Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, come on. It's a classic.
Oh, yes. You know, we never covered that on this channel.
Hmm.
If someone were to request, oh no, I would be forced to. Excuse me. Anyway, so as we said, the movie men are sniffing around. Warner Brothers, while he's on Broadway, go and offer him to sign up for 7 years for $1 million, working under David O. Selznick. Now, he was earning about $350 a week at this time. Actually, Murgoot, can I ask a favor?
Yes.
Could you go into the inflation calculator and quickly work out what $350 a week is in today's money?
Okay.
I
In
meant
1940, 1939.
this would be 1936, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yes.
It's-
Oh, T has asked, can we cover Rosemary's Baby? Well, I would normally reserve that for members only, but you know, T, I think we can help you out there. I think we can do it, especially when you. I wasn't going to mention the spelling, but I appreciate that.
said
Let's see.
$350.
350, yeah, that's what he was on a week. Now, while you're looking that up, as I said, David O. Selznick approached him. So I'm going to say that it's a very good thing that Vincent Price turned him down. If you know anything about David O. Selznick, I don't think it would have been a good environment for Vincent Price. The sort of widespread use of doping up your stars, forcing them to terminate pregnancies. David O. Selznick was a big fan of that. Very dodgy guy. In fact, I looked into him for another as yet unmade video. The occasionally referenced secret video, where he's relevant to that. And Selznick is basically, he's like the Harvey Weinstein of his day, but worse. Much worse. It's grim stuff.
Okay.
yeah,
I've got the money here.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
It's $7,779.79 a week.
Ooh, nice. Very nice indeed. Very nice indeed. Well done, Vincent. Yeah. I mean, that impresses me. That really impresses me. So that's interesting because it seems like around this time but then again, if he's not acting actively, then he doesn't have any money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
That would explain some of the issues. He does end up with some money trouble as a result of turning this generous offer down. But I was just going to say the thing that they wanted him for was going to be for the Ashley Wilkes role in Gone with the Wind.
Oh, he missed out on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been wonderful, but I've got to say, I do worry what would have happened to him. In all the reading of this, he's coming across people who are stars who are, like, lots of them are beset with sort of alcohol trouble, unfortunately. And I just worry what would have happened to him if he'd got into the studio system early.
Yeah.
So instead of that, instead of going and working for Warner Brothers, he continues and he says he wants to focus on the art. Helen Hayes actually advises him, keep working on your acting, keep doing that, and try your hand at loads of other stuff. So when the big play goes off Broadway and goes touring, he decides to focus on what they called summer stocks, which are just really short, quickly produced plays that you're meant to only run them for a couple of weeks at most. You take your shot and you make them quickly. They're a real chance to get lots of variety, trying loads of different roles and loads of different plays. So very good on the ground, rough learning experience where you can practice something out. I guess almost like the equivalent of how big stand-ups will test material in a couple of pubs and they just do it a bit rough and ready. And in that, he meets some really cool people. He meets Roddy McDowall, which is like pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Leo G. Carroll. He spends a lot of time working with him, actually. Younger audience members, you possibly know Leo G. Carroll best from Rocky Horror Picture Show. In the opening song, Leo G. Carroll was over a barrel when Tarantula ran for the hills. Was that it? Yes.
Something like that.
Yes. Of course, this stream itself is named after that song, science fiction double feature. Yes. Let's see. Devonte, hi, good to see you. Was it PH and Murgoot? Oh, well, it was, but we also had TCG with us last week, but unfortunately he's a very busy man and can't make it this week, sad to say. Something came up. Let's see. And John Goris. I might not flash that comment on screen, you forgive me. Price had a real weird chapter in his life when dealing with, I will simply say, sensitive matters related to a particular group, and the State Department got involved. He had to sign something. Yes, he absolutely did. We won't cover that for a while, but we'll get into some of the stuff that gets into the groundwork for it. Devonte, don't worry, man. You can just watch it on the replay. And by the way, to everyone watching on the replay now, hi, good to see you. Sorry I forgot until 31 minutes in to say hi to you, but you guys are absolute champs. And I'll just mention while we're doing this also, leaving a comment is very appreciated for the algorithm, helping spread this stuff and the good word of Vincent Price, as is a like. I'll get through the Vincent Price material. I want to check. I want to see loads of likes. Can we get 30 likes in? That'd be amazing. Anyway, back to Thirst Trap Extraordinaire, Mr. Vincent Price. Let's move on. Oh, I think I should have... Yes.
Peter Lorre.
Yep, absolutely. Do you know which one this is from?
Oh, not off the top of my head, but
It's Tales of Terror.
Oh, okay.
Which we covered a while ago, but that's the Black Cat segment. It's a cute one. We will get to that sort of kind of a long way off, I'm afraid. But this is just for his illustration of his fondness for cats. I've actually got this in the wrong place, so forgive me. But I just want, because I was trying to get a photo of him with his cat, but I couldn't find one. So I just got one with him with lots of cats, and I thought that would tide us over. So yes, he's working the stocks. He meets Leo G. Carroll. He will eventually join Orson Welles' Mercury Theatre, which was focused on doing the classics, but doing them in a way that was meant to have much broader appeal, really sort of revitalize them. And in that time, he's meeting all sorts. So as we've mentioned, Vincent Price, bit of a ladies' man. And I'll just introduce you to a few of them. So on the left there is Helen Hayes, who we've mentioned many a time, Queen Victoria and Victoria Regina, who really sort of has been showing him the ropes, introducing him around and giving him great advice. There is Anna May Wong, who was his lover briefly when they start together in Turando. And I do love his makeup in that. I'll throw out a curveball. I don't expect you to get it. I wouldn't have got it. Do you recognize a woman on the right?
Oh, I want to say it's Mary Pitchford, but it's not.
No, don't worry. I did not know her. It's one of those names I was broadly familiar with, but I don't think I've seen anything of hers. That's Tallulah Bankhead.
Okay.
Gosh, she does look a bit like Lillian Gish. Goodness me. Lillian Gish, I think actually Vincent did work with her, T. One of the many women. I did have to limit what I put in. So I've included Tallulah because she's a bit of a foreshadow. Now, Tallulah Bankhead was a bit riotous. She's gorgeous. She's Irish heritage, liked the drink, very witty, but also chaotic. She had what you might call a bit of that manic pixie dream girl energy, and maybe, if you don't mind me saying so, Mr. Torrance, perhaps a little more than manic pixie dream girl energy. She was known for outrageous behavior. When she first met him, she immediately tackled him in a bar and dropped him to the floor. He found it endearing. He liked it. As a young guy, he liked that chaotic energy. She visited him in his dressing room to sort of pep him up and wish him luck on stage. And she sits in the corner, perches herself on his sink, and he's having the usual pleasantries with her, and then realizes that she's whittling into his sink. Just the whole time they've been talking, she's surreptitiously just started weeing right in his dressing room sink. I mean, it makes an impression, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen a few people saying like, "Oh, she's just like me for real, for real." I felt bad because I knew that story was coming. But anyway,
I've actually known one woman like that, and she was a holy terror.
I think it's this kind of how can I say? When you're younger, that sort of chaotic energy is quite enticing. And he was drawn to her. I don't believe they had a relationship, although Tallulah Bankhead was quite renowned for being very forthright about her needs. Patrick Batman, Vincent can change her. Oh, he's going to pull the old Connor Tomlinson special. I did think of Connor a bit when I was reading about her, I'm not going to lie. But it's a bit of foreshadowing because, Vincent is not scared off by that stuff. And maybe it explains some later decisions we'll get into. All right. So those are some interesting women. We have more. But right now, let's look at where he ends up. So he has not gone touring. He's out on his own doing the summer stock. So what's he going to do? He doesn't have $1 million. He gets into his first basement apartment, just his first on his own, settling down in 1937 on West 33rd Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. If you're wondering why there, well, it's very close to the theatres, but also, look at that. Museum of Modern Art right there.
Cool.
I think that's what motivated him. I have tried to get you photos of exactly where he was. I cannot find them. I couldn't actually even get photos of that street in 1930. So I'm afraid what I am showing you on the top is 6th Avenue in 1961 and 7th Avenue in 1915. So somewhere in that, just like mentally average that out and you'll have an idea of what his place was like. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not going to surprise you, Murgoot. We've all done it. The first apartment, it's pretty small. It's a basement apartment. You know, we've all been there, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. I've lived in a couple of shoeboxes.
Rite of passage. Did you have a patio? Any chance?
The one that was most shoebox-like, I had one bedroom, a living room, and a 50s style kitchen.
A 50s style kitchen? I mean, that sounds wonderful to me, but
it's
maybe I'm romanticizing, maybe.
Clunky. Everything small, one basin sink, a 50s era Frigidaire refrigerator that barely worked, and a phone jack on one wall that I put a small desk in that I could put my computer on. This was mid to late 90s. I lived there like a hermit for 4 years.
Yeah. Familiar. Yeah, did that. I've got, what's this? The Alabaster. My first apartment was a hellhole. Yep, familiar. I think we've all been there.
Well, my apartment, My two downstairs neighbors and were ex-cons trying to go straight. My upstairs, one was an ex-con and his wife was a private eye, and they used me to keep other ex-cons away to keep them out of trouble. And because, well,
You are massive.
one, I'm massive. Two, I had a battle axe, literally a two-handed battle axe, and I also had my Mossberg Police Special shotgun that if they knew somebody was coming, I'd sit on the upper steps and clean it, and they generally decided not to mess with anybody in the apartment. On the other side of the building, there was the Korean family that owned the Korean and Chinese restaurant directly across the street. That was the big advantage. I got to know them, and they'd invite me to pre-opening dim sum.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Oh, bless. I like it. I like it. I think we're all reminiscing here. Okay, so yeah, Vincent's done that experience. We all have. I don't know if he got any dim sum, man, but he'd have liked it. I know he would have liked it. He's down there. It's him, and he gets in some of his art collection, but obviously not very much. And he brings with him his cat, Albert the Good. I was not able to find Albert the Good, but if you want to imagine him, he's got mid-length hair. He's white at the front, and his back portions are a kind of tortoiseshell and white. He sounds adorable, but I couldn't get any photos of him, which is unsurprising because this is Vincent's cat in the 1920s through to the early 30s. But sadly, for not much longer, Vincent has a play go a bit wrong. He's not happy with the reviews. He thinks it's a bit of a letdown. And instead of turning to drink, he gets himself a bulldog. I don't know, man. I don't know. He saw a little bulldog in a pet shop near his place, and he was enchanted and brought him in, and he called that bulldog Johnny. Unfortunately, a cat and a bulldog in a small apartment, not a good decision. And, you know, oh dear, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, guys. It does have a happy ending. But this is like 1937. This is 26-year-old Vincent probably should have known, if we're honest. Anyway, they fight. They fight a lot, and Albert Albert the cat, you know, he stays away longer, and eventually Vincent finds a note in his mailbox saying, if you, you know, basically, I've taken your cat in. He's safe and healthy and being loved and fed here. If you get rid of the dog, then you can have him back. I mean, I can't. It's harsh, but I can't really disagree there, to be honest.
Yep.
I think it's thinking of the cat's welfare, and he also doesn't have the dog much longer either. He eventually decides that Johnny needs to go to somewhere where he's actually got a bit of land. So he has a friend who lives rurally who takes Johnny on. Although I've got to admit, it did sound a bit suspicious, like sending Johnny to a friend who has a farm. It sounded a little cliche, to be honest, but that's reportedly what happened. Year's heading out early. Well, thanks for dropping by. I hope you enjoy the rest of the stream, and I hope you have a good weekend. Oh, and actually, you got your stream. I hope the stream goes well, Years. So yes, that's Johnny and Albert sort of out of the picture fairly quickly, sad to say. Also, fun story, in his tiny apartment, it doesn't stop him collecting. He's in a district full of art, and he can't help himself. He's visiting all the galleries. He's visiting little shops. He's still buying what he can, and he comes across this piece by Orozco, Jose Orozco, which is called Zapata, and he absolutely loved this. This was being sold in a shop ran by Orozco's mistress. He had basically no money at this point because he's doing these plays intermittently. And this was going for $5,000. But you know how art is going, you know. The shop owner says, okay, you don't have 5,000, Vincent. What do you have? He says, I can pay you 750 on installments. You can have 150 now and you can have 50 a month. Okay. She's like, yep, that'll do. Here you go. So he gets a bit of a bargain, really. This turns out to be quite big. But in a weird circumstance, like, he's only got one wall he can mount it on. And even then, you have to sort of, to see it properly, you have to get beneath the kitchen table so you can look up at it properly and catch it all. So he's doing this. He doesn't mind. He's appreciating it. But then his art friends come around and say, like, can we see it? Yeah. And then they say, oh, there are some students we know. Can they come too? He's finding his apartment is getting quite a few visits from people who just want to see this art. And to do so, they're all lying under his kitchen table.
His own private art gallery.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he loved it. He was down for it. But yes, yeah. I just love that imagery. Now, around this time, interesting things are happening in the world. The Spanish Civil War is going on. Now, if you didn't hear last week's episode, we talked a fair bit around Vincent's travels in 1930s Germany and Austria. And he very much like a lot of people at the time, really liked what was being done. Which sounds like a sort of edgy comment, but realistically, you've got to think of Weimar was not a good place, and it being cleaned up was very popular with people. Now, popular opinion would change in the coming years, but what he was seeing on the ground is the kind of thing that made him sort of quite supportive of what was going on. Mm-hmm. So it might seem sort of contrary that when the Spanish Civil War is getting on, he's joining fundraising efforts to try and help fund anti-Franco efforts. Now, I mentioned this last week, but we always have to bear in mind what our source is. And our source is Vincent Price, A Daughter's Biography by Victoria Price. You'll remember that Victoria Price was very sort of, my goodness, how could my father think these silly things? He must have been brainwashed. How did he get these silly ideas from propaganda whilst he was out, seeing things with his own eyes, talking to people himself, and actually being there? How could he get these silly fake ideas? Versus when he's supporting the anti-Franco efforts, and she's like, yes, good, Vincent, good, well done, very astute. I'm afraid we have an extremely biased author, and you wait until we get to her describing her mother-in-law, then we'll see some real bias, trust me. We will get there, folks. Anyway, yes, he did pitch in. And I think he was happy to do this one because he thought, yeah, course sounds good. I don't think it was presented in the most objective way. And the Spanish Civil War has come under some quite notable re-evaluation in our years. I'll leave my comments there. But it was a way he could bridge the theatre and the art world. So he's able to be a theatrical presenter, auctioning off art. That really suited him, really suited him. Anyway, and it was a forerunner of what he would do when the American war effort for World War II started. So he would really step up that kind of act then, but we'll get on to that another time. Now move us on to, yes. So I mentioned he joins Orson Welles' Mercury Theatre Group, which was trying to revitalize the classics. Yes. And while he's doing that, meeting many wonderful people, as I mentioned, Roddy McDowell, who will give us a very interesting quote, and also, is in our beloved Fright Night. And I will always love him for that. There we go. Yes, while he's meeting them, he meets a couple of people. He's getting a bit restless and disillusioned. Remember, he's a man of what would he be at this time? He's going to be 26. Now, very significantly, one of the plays he stars in is with one Edith Barrett, and it's a play called The Shoemaker's Holiday. Edith Barrett there is on the right. On the left is Barbara O'Neill. Now, I didn't mention her last week because I thought I'd wait for it, but Barbara O'Neill is kind of a potential Mrs. Price. He pursued Barbara O'Neill for a long time. He met her in the early days, I believe, of Yale and was besotted with her then. He kept corresponding with her while he was abroad. When they met, they would go on dates. I don't know how far that would go, but very much there was a romantic interest in there. But he never managed to make that fully happen. I know he sent her a ring in one of those kind of pre-engagements. It's like, I'm not officially proposing, but here is a ring which says I'm serious.
Promise ring, old school.
Kind of, yeah, kind of a promise ring. For a promise ring, don't you have to like keep your virginity? Is that right? Or
It depends. It's just a promise that you'll wait.
Yeah, I'm going to say that Vincent Price most definitely did not wait. But however, it seems that Barbara O'Neill did not either. They seem to have been quite cosmopolitan in that respect. I'm also seeing here from John Gorris that Dennis Hopper was an avid art collector too. Very interesting. Interesting. Anyway, he tried to make the O'Neill thing happen. It did not. But he later goes with Edith Barrett. Now, Edith Barrett, as well as being a stage actress he works with and therefore gets very close to in the making of this this play, The Shoemaker's Holiday, she's experienced. She has also got that kind of Tallulah Bankhead style manic pixie energy. And I think that's why he was interested in her. Like, she's got that energy of Tallulah Bankhead, but look at her next to Barbara O'Neill. I mean, do you think it's fair to say, like, he's kind of got a type? What do you reckon?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, as we know from his interest in anime Wong, he's not exclusively of a type, but there's something there. Now, also note that an interesting fact is that Edith Barrett at this time, she had a fair bit more experience. She was also doing the old classic actress practice of concealing her age. She was saying she was in her mid to late 20s at this point. She was actually 34. Vincent being about 26 when they start getting together. Now, Roddy, people weren't sure this was the greatest idea that they start dating. I'm going to read to you from Roddy McDowell, his assessment. Roddy McDowell worked with Edith when he was a boy and recalls he was very put off by her as a child. I can vividly remember her on the set and my memories are of terror. She was like somebody out of the attic. But you know, there's a strange thing. When people are young, insanity is really a quite attractive quotient in one's peers because you say, oh, well, she's young, she'll grow out of it. But she didn't grow out of it. She grew into it. She looked like a bird. She had this strange bird-like quality. And before age took over, it must have seemed awesome because it must have appeared to be ephemeral. I'm sure she was extraordinary when she was young, deeply appealing and very moving. And I'm sure that life force could be very attractive, especially to someone like Vincent, who I'm sure thought he could help her. Yeah, bit forewarning there, bit forewarning. But it goes well. He's besotted and he marries her. And the gossip columns love this. They print the photo of them marrying in the newspapers. And so our Vincent is married on April 23rd, 1938. There's a really cute story about how they celebrate it. You know, they go back to his little apartment, his little basement apartment. He goes to their patio and he hires an organ grinder and a monkey. The classic, right? And he doesn't bank on the fact that when the organ grinder's going, people from all the flats above started dropping pennies down for the organ grinder. And it's just unsafe to be out there, you know?
An organ grinder.
I know, isn't that great? Gosh.
Oh, just the image.
I know, it's fantastic, isn't it? But yeah, so I think Vincent is liking that manic pixie dream girl energy. So now perhaps because he's feeling a little restless in the Orson Welles group, he's not totally sure about how Orson Welles does his directing. And it was a very young Orson Welles. We're talking like 21, 22 at this time. Vincent is a bit out on the lookout. So, and it might also be that he's now married. So he starts thinking, gosh, I want to try new things and I need to start bringing in some money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's feeling constrained. Maybe it's motivated by that. But he finally signs with a movie studio. He's getting offers from Universal and MGM, and he's playing them off against each other. Excellent negotiating strategy. But eventually, as you can tell from this poster, signs with Universal. And of course, back in the day, it's still very contractually based. Although it still is to an extent, isn't it?
It is, but the studio system was far more restrictive at that time. It's contract players, and there was a lot that entailed with it. You had to take extra dance lessons. You had to have your hair coiffed at all times. They manipulated your public image at all times.
Very exclusive too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the
it's
men
not like
had it far easier than the women did.
yes. Have a look at Judy Garland's life if you want to understand a fair bit more about that.
Or Vivian Leigh's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of them, to be honest. It's not the brightest chapter in cinema history. But Vincent gets the deal he wants. He signs with Universal for $1,000 per week.
In
pretty good money. Yeah, do you want to give that a go? 1939, $1,000 per week. Now that's only when he's shooting, but that's pretty good money. And it's a small deal, really. It's just 2 pictures that he's guaranteed, and he also gets 6 months off a year to go and star on Broadway. Plus, he also got written in that he didn't have to do any B movies.
Wow.
That is pretty strong, but I think because he's negotiating Universal against MGM, he managed to nab that. But yeah, he was happy with that.
$21,910.43 a week.
Fantastic! My goodness. So quite the up. Basically, tripling what he was getting when he was working in theatre. But you can see he wants to keep the door to theatre open. Now, that first bit of acting he did is with is a film called Service Deluxe. It's just it's kind of a light romantic comedy. I'm going to see if we can watch a bit of it because it's a bit adorable. If we get copy struck, I'll be impressed. I'm afraid there's only a kind of low quality version, but I'll play a bit just because I think it'll be a bit nice if we can hear Vincent, you know? So I'll try and play us. Let's play some Service Deluxe. And I'll add that on. How are we doing? Okay, folks. By the way, the whole movie is up.
Oh, dude.
What's the big idea?
Were you talking to me?
Look. Just look. That's all I want you to do.
Is that your hat?
That was my hat. You knocked it off with that thing.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Oh.
Well, I guess there's only one thing for me to do.
Well, I suppose
But doesn't it make us even?
even. Mine was an original Lily Lachey from Paris.
Well, mine was an original Nobby shop from Schenectady.
Oh.
Well, that doesn't make us even.
Oh, well, don't be silly.
You look much nicer without it anyway. I can't stand the hats women wear nowadays.
Oh, you can't. Isn't that too bad? Well, I have another one in my cabin, thank goodness.
No, don't put it on. I'd rather you wouldn't.
You'd rather.
Yes.
Chad, absolute Chad, don't you? You love to see it, don't you? You absolutely love to see it. Oh, I always love the dialogue in that sort of stuff. They gave him a couple of small hair pieces for that, incidentally. You know, he was a little concerned about hair loss, weirdly. I mean, it didn't seem to massively affect him, but he was a little sensitive because even at 20, what would that be? 27 he was when he filmed this, a late 27. He'd lost a little bit from his temples. So the studio made him wear little small hair pieces to buff up the temples, really. He had a weirder one later where he grew out a full mustache for a role and they said no, and made him shave it off and then wear a fake mustache of the same style. And even better, he's doing a kiss on a co-star and it comes off and sticks to her. Yeah. Bless him. So Vincent records that he is nervous about this work. He's very nervous. He's used to being on stage. And so he does a very sensible thing. He goes and gets acting lessons for screens because particularly the way you would talk in a theatre is very projection-based. And it looks weird on camera. So they train you to talk a bit smaller mouth movements, which was a good move.
Yeah, you can see that with William Shatner never caught the knack of going from stage to screen. He just kept the projection.
Very different art. And you can tell when someone is a theatre actor, can't you? I think. So, and that's now. You know, Screen Deluxe, it's a bit of fluff, really. He was a tiny bit put off because it wasn't the deep acting thing he wanted to do. It wasn't the particularly challenging role, but he started to realize, okay, this is just something that the studios kind of churn out just to have something fresh. So it's not ideal for him, but he could roll it. It's where he got that wonderful review where it was he's 840 pounds distributed over 6 feet 4 inches of a well-proportioned stature and a beguiling voice, giving him the sex appeal. You know, he was getting some very positive reviews. And of course, to do that, he had to move from New York all the way over to LA, which is quite a departure for him.
Oh, yeah. Especially then, big bustling city versus spread out, much smaller city at the time.
Yeah. There was a fair bit he liked about it, you know, but he did find that culturally, architecturally, artistically, it was quite behind the times. And I'm sorry, YouTube. I'm just going to read from some Vincent here. Naturally, disavow. So this is Vincent writing now. He wrote to his parents, I'm very enthusiastic about the possibilities of California, but it will take time and a great effort culturally to make it what it should be. Bad taste is more apparent here than in any other part of the country. Yet they are years behind the times in architecture, and what modern efforts they've made are too extreme. But the climate has limitless advantages. It should make things easier for the culture to flourish. The only setbacks are the Jews and their power here. They're in command in all fields, and they, of course, as always, are responsible for the bad taste. Oh, Vincent.
Wow.
Oh, Vincent. Now, when we go further into this, you'll find that quite interesting because it's not too long until he's, as we've already talked about, involved in causes we'd call liberal, like the anti-Franco causes. He later gets very involved with B'nai B'rith and the Jewish Anti-Defamation League. Once again, his daughter is and not a fan, but how can I say? Chat, you've been here a while, you know what the channel's like. I would just say bear in mind the horrific things that are happening in the studios, the David O. Selznicks, and think where Vincent may not have the strongest, best impression of the people he is meeting for the first time, really. See how he's not plucking that out of nowhere. But yes, daughter absolutely seething, Patrick Batman. Very, very true. She will applaud his later change. I mean, to put it in perspective, later he's going to be deemed to be so progressive that he actually gets investigated by a sort of pre-McCarthy committee. So our Vincent has been all over the board, as it were. I was kind of thinking, Murgoot, you know how you get like centrism is hard to describe? And I like to think you kind of get the you get like concentrated centrism when you're right in the middle of the political compass, right? But I like chaotic centrism, where you're spread out everywhere.
Yeah,
you've got position points on the far edges of everything. You're impossible. Pollsters fear him. You could vote for a politician, then immediately try and off him. You know, that's the kind of centrism that I think Vincent is kind of
hard to keep
demonstrating
together while you eventually find a center inside yourself, wherever it may lead. Excuse the pun, but you typically end up settling somewhere in a synthesis of your views where you can make a stand. And I think that's where Vincent ended up.
We'll see where he gets at. Well, suffice to say, like, his motivations aren't easily classified. Let's put it like that. I think with everyone, you find you have an underlying purpose or underlying principle that just looks weird and chaotic when it's put into the typical compass grid. Oh, Richard, just like Dev. No, I don't think Dev believes anything, so that would be the slight problem. But that's shade not to be brought up on this channel. Anyway, but there we go. Oh, the NRA. Maybe he did trip over a tunnel. Could have. Anyway, suffice to say, culture shock with him and the studio systems not to his liking. He had a bad time in his early films. Suffice to say, it was valuable for him, but challenging. Also, while he's over there, he agrees to do a favor of accompanying someone, getting all dressed up to accompany an important person. And he gets all dressed up and goes over to the address he's been given, and then realizes, oh, wait, I didn't ask who I meant to be escorting. And so he is delighted when the door opens and he finds that he's escorting Marlene Dietrich.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'll just put it out here. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen it, currently on BBC iPlayer, there is a 1957 classic called Witness for the Prosecution. It's an adaptation of an Agatha Christie play, and it's absolutely brilliant. Marlene Dietrich is amazing in it. Highly recommended. Witness for the Prosecution. It's short but punchy. Give it a look. Highly recommend that one. Christie posting is going to increase on here. All right. Sorry. So he finishes Service Deluxe. It's not exactly what he hoped to do, but he says, I hope to make another picture and get a serious character role. That's when acting is fun. When you must convince an audience that you're someone else. Here, everything is individuals, and the personalities are never hidden for fear the great public won't take it. Now, I thought that was really interesting because, I mean, Vincent Price kind of later becomes so distinctive basically as himself, right? It's interesting that he has that perspective at that time. Now, after this,
people did.
Yeah, he grows into it. He changes. We're going to see the evolution of him as we carry on. I'm rounding this up very quickly, folks, by the way. Thank you for being patient, as ever. There's a lot of Vincent to cover. Anyway, so he goes and does a very rewarding play called Outward Bound, which kind of perks him up after Service Deluxe, and sort of gets his spirits back on. Thanks to his contract, he can do that. He then comes back for a very difficult film. One difficult, terrible film called Green Hell, which was about a sort of journey into the Mayan hinterlands to rescue a bombshell, but it's trash. Anyway, it was very, very mocked. But he then went on to a film called The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex. This was an adaptation of a play he'd already been in. Now, he wasn't high enough status to be the male lead. He couldn't be the Earl of Essex. That went to Errol Flynn. But he did get to be Sir Walter Raleigh. And look at him.
Ruffles and all.
Yes, doesn't he look great? That Price, that sort of distinctive Price mustache, the Price hairline as well. He's young, but you can still see the chap he's going to be. But yes, he had a problem with that. Bette Davis and Errol Flynn did not get on. And Flynn was not very cooperative, unfortunately. There were a lot of dramatics on that production, basically. We're overrunning a bit, so I won't go into them. He'd play the Essex role later when it went back on stage. He'd pick it up again. But for a film role, he didn't have a great experience. But I'm going to end it tonight, this section, with another milestone for him. It probably should have been the birth of his child, but we'll get to that next week. We'll start off with it. I wanted us to end, now that he's actually making films, on his first horror, which was The Tower of London. This is 1939, and I'm very sorry, folks, I could not get a clip of it. I tried. I could find the 1962 remake by Roger Corman, which he also stars in, but I could not get an original from this, so it's just stills, I'm afraid. But as you can see from the poster, this is getting him working with Basil Rathbone, with Boris Karloff, with the aforementioned Barbara O'Neill. They're on good terms now. No bother. It's all good. And I think you also see Leo G. Carroll got in on this one. It was a sort of horrified version of Richard III, and Price played an invented villainous character called Maud, who gets offed by being drowned in a barrel. But he started a fantastic friendship with Rathbone and Karloff here, and it seems to have been a bit of a highlight for him because he really enjoyed getting to play this deep character, this villainous character, which he hadn't been able to do before. It was also nearly directed by James Whale of the 1931 Frankenstein fame, but unfortunately Whale dropped out, and it was then directed by a guy called Roland Veely, who Price had worked on with a previous picture. But he would get to work in a sequel to another James Whale film, The Invisible Man Returns, later. But yes, I'm sad I can't show you a clip from it, but that still alone, I think, is like, oof, you're getting the foreshadow. Vincent looks pretty darn good as a villain.
Yeah, he does. Looks like he's chewing the scenery with it and having a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. It's almost like he is going to get a taste for it, you know? All right. Well, that has brought us up to 1939. When we go into the next episode, we'll be talking about Vincent's first child, his involvement in the war efforts, his time in radio, and I think I'll try and get us to his first sort of Roger Corman film if I can. But I'll see how we do. Oh, Devontae, no, that's not him on the cover. That's the guy on the left. On the right is Basil Rathbone. Who looks
on the left, of course, that's Karloff.
Rathbone looks really weird to me without the mustache, you know. And Karloff had, I think, it was 7 years earlier. He'd been in The Old Dark House as well with James Whale. Yes. Anyway, that is Vincent Price biography. Please give us a better title. We really need a better title for this than Vincent Price history. But never mind. Oh yes, and let's check on those likes. Have you been appreciating the Vincent Price facts?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 14 likes. 14 likes. We can get that up. Go on. 28 in chat. I want to see 28 likes. Get in there. Oh, and perfect. Patrick Batman with excellent timing coming in at the end of this topic, giving £5 and suggesting director of Candyman made Paper House, more of a coming-age movie. Oh, so the director... So is that Bernard Rose? Or I assume you mean Bernard Rose, so the 1992 Candyman. But when the horror show's up, it's like numbers. Okay, I am intrigued. All right, let me make a little note there. We will check out Paper House. Forgive me typing. Okay. And with that, oh yes, so confirmed Bernard Rose. We got a suggestion. The price is delightful. We'll work on it. Keep the suggestions coming in. Oh, that's more like it. Yes, more likes, folks. I hate to harvest them, but it is YouTube. We need it. Oh, I quite like a slice of Price. Oh, yeah. No, I like that. That's good. A slice of Price. And don't worry, yes, we will cover Theatre of Blood. Obviously, we have to cover it. Slice of Price. There we go. We got it. Thank you, Dr. Prepper. And with that, 1 hour and 17 minutes. Sorry, 1 hour and 18 minutes into a stream on Beyond the Black Rainbow. Should we talk about Beyond the Black Rainbow?
Yeah, let's go for it. I don't know if it's going to be a 2-minute pour, but there's a lot to go over. It's fairly involved.
I think we could do, we could literally do a 1-minute pour, or even, I could do like a 30-second pour, and then you could do a 2-minute pour. How about that?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, so the 30-second pour. Oh, and by the way, spoilers for the entire movie. Spoilers for the movie Beyond the Black Rainbow 2010. Panos Cosmatos spoiling his whole movie. There we go. And again, if you can't find it, which it's blooming hard to pay for, by the way, Tubi has it, and YouTube has a version in 360p. But I try and watch a good quality version because it's a bit gorgeous. All right. A 30-second version. A institute that was practicing in highly advanced therapy based on new age techniques has sort of decayed under new ownership, and the new owner is very corrupt and depraved. He has a powerful psychic captured, whilst he has his own limited psychic powers. He experiments on her, tries to provoke her. She eventually escapes. He tracks her down, but then she uses her powers against him to defeat him. Was that a 30-second pour?
Yeah.
All right. The story is incredibly simple, but there are layers to it. if I can present it like that, and it sounds like it's the most basic movie, but we wouldn't be doing it justice. So, Murgoot, would you like to try give us about the 2-minute pour, the Guinness summary?
Okay. It opens with the Arborea Institute. It's created by Mercurio Arborea. It's a New Age research institute. Serenity through technology and perpetual happiness. Then it switches to 1983, and you meet Dr. Barry Nye. He's a pleasant man, but he's psycho.
He also looks amazingly like Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey's love child. And I couldn't get it out of my head for the whole movie.
He keeps Elena, a psychic, restricted to the lower levels in a cell. She's a telepath and has psychokinesis. He also has the Institute set up in day mode and night mode so that she can get sleep and everybody knows when to go in and out. He also has in the very basement a large pyramidal prism to suppress her abilities that he turns on and turns off periodically.
I've just got that on screen for everyone now. There we go.
And it shows that Niall does daily sessions with Alina to probe her abilities and to torment her a little bit. She always wants to see her father, and he tells her she's too ill to see him. Niall goes home to his wife, Rosemary, who's throughout the movie, you see that she's sedated or stoned throughout. And then it shows a little clip of Elena using her powers to watch TV on a security monitor. Then it switches back to Niall. And you see he takes a lot of pills and psychedelics and other medicine. Switches back. He talks to Elena a bit about her mother and how desirable she was, and just to agitate her a bit. And then he leaves a picture of her mother under the bed. It switches to Nurse Margot, who's walking the bottom floor, and she finds the access hatch with Dr. Niall's files on Alina, and is rather squicked out by his notes of him basically psychologically torturing her and his growing sexual attraction to her. Niall gets a call in the middle of the night that something's up. He runs to the lab. He finds the cigarette left by Margot. He takes another one of his hallucinogens. Niall approaches Margot, tells her that Alina has contraband, thinks she has a picture, sends Margot in, and then he promptly turns off the prism. Margot taunts Alina, destroys the photo, and then Alina promptly pulls the trancers and explodes her eyes, and her brains come out of her skull. Trancer seems to be kind of an influence on this movie.
Trancer?
Trancers with Michael Ironside.
Scanners?
Scanners, sorry.
There we go.
Wrong movie.
No,
My bad.
Don't worry. I got a nice screenshot of that.
Scanners, yes.
Yeah.
Trancers is another one that's kind of influences this. Niall allows Alina to escape and then doses her. She runs out, and then he doses her with anesthetic gas, knocks her out, and sends in the Sentient, big red and black robot-like thing who injects Alina with a tracking device and then moves her back to her room. Niall then goes down further into the basement and visits Dr. Orboria, who's kind of in a trance state in a couch suspending him. The old man talks to Dr. Niall about how things are wonderful and going according to plan. And then Dr. Niall has a flashback to Dr. Arboria's wife, Anna, helping him to find himself more, helping him into a bath of black oil. And he comes out insane and kills Anna. And Dr. Arboria forgives him and then dumps Elena, Dr. Arboria's daughter, it turns out, into the black oil, and she comes out as a psychic.
Yeah, I've got that there. I've got some of the imagery from when he goes in, which was
and then
great
Niall
stuff.
murders Dr. Arborio by ODing him on the hallucinogens and painkillers. And then Niall returns home, and you figure out how psycho and how weird he is because he removes the contact lenses and his hairpiece, and he's quite otherworldly. Tells his wife that he's ascended beyond the black rainbow, and then turns around and promptly kills his wife. All this time, Alina is escaping through the vents and the ducts. She comes upon the Sentient, and she kind of questions him, and he removes his helmet, and it's a mutant baby face, which is, it's an odd scene why they had it in there, but it just shows how depraved Dr. Niall is.
There's your babyface Sentient.
And then a prolonged scene where she escapes through more vents and more, how to put it, basically the back.
There's a staff room.
She goes through the maintenance hallways into the staff room. Nobody's in the staff room, and so she leaves out into the garden grounds of the Arboretum that was talked about earlier, how beautiful it was, and then she finds herself out in the real world. Dr. Niall grabs his ceremonial dagger and goes on a hunt for her, and she's tromping through the woods, and she hears a couple of stoners and hangs off in the background, and the stoners are taking the piss out of each other, and Dr. Niall comes and kills them both, which is a totally unnecessary scene. And then she steps out of the woods, confronts Dr. Niall, and Elena freezes him to the ground and knocks him to the ground, and he kills himself by hitting his head on a rock. And then she continues wandering through the woods and sees a suburban home, and it's lit by a television, and then fade to black.
Yeah, I'll get that up, and that is our detailed run through. So hopefully, if you did not manage to see it, you will have an idea of what we're covering. and the basic movements of the plot. Do you think it's fair to say, Murgoot, the plot itself is extremely, extremely simple?
Yes.
And
it's
the devil's in the details.
very much so. And the devil's also in the way the film was made and displayed. And I will be right back.
That is absolutely fine. I'll do some production details while we build up to that. So it's an interesting one, as we said, 2010. This is independent. It was produced for a budget about 1.1 million, based on effectively the royalties of the director's father. Wikipedia's description is quite interesting. His father basically made very standard 80s action movies that probably a lot of us are familiar with. And the mother, Brigitte, was more involved in the fine arts. And the film is actually dedicated to her, which I find interesting. But it was royalties from his dad's movie that allowed Panos Cosmatos to make this. Now, he'd gotten quite a lot of attention, I saw, in 2018 for Mandy. I was trying to do the watch of that as well to get an idea to see if he had a particular style of this, or if it was only this story that he wanted to do it about. The Henry Ebb is talking about the post-credit scenes. We'll flash that up quickly. There you go. That adds quite a bit onto the ending when you get there for how you interpret it. But then maybe our interpretation of this film is going to be way off. We'll find out what you think. You let us know. Because this is a film all about vibes. Very, very much about the vibes. Again, the kind of thing where you can say, let me put it this way. If you've ever read a script for a movie, you often find that you're excited getting through to like the big combats. Like the example coming to mind is Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the King. Sorry, you know what I mean. The first one, Fellowship of the Ring. So I had the script for that in the early days, and I was so entranced by the fight between Lurtz and Aragorn, and I wanted to see how that was written. In the script, it is literally just written, they fight. I got there like, huh? What? It's literally just they fight. And you realize that, okay, for that specific example, a lot of the time there's an outline and directors don't put a load of detail in because they kind of know that they're going to have to change things up based on the location they have, the budget they have. So they don't always write a huge amount of detail, but if they're in a location with a cool feature, they'll build the fight into that. But they're not going to do something about chucking someone off a balcony unless it's extremely thematically necessary. But if there's a balcony there, heck yeah, we'll throw them off one. Does that sound fair? My point into going into that is the script only says about Lurtz and Aragorn, they fight. And everything is about the way it's done, the atmosphere. Very deliberate choices in that. Beyond the Black Rainbow is a heck of a lot like reading in the script, they fight. Everything is in the tone. Everything is in the delivery. Everything is in the imagery and the illusions. You think that's fair, Murgoot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to let my cat out.
Oh, bless. Bless. Yes. Cats do make the decisions. It's true. It's true. We'll try and get through it. We'll try and unpack it because I think this film won't have worked for everyone. In fact, this film, I think, won't have worked for a heck of a lot of people. If you're on this channel, I think there's a very good chance you're going to be more receptive to it. Because a lot of people, the experience will be closer to when we've gone over like a David Lynch, like Lost Highway or Mulholland Drive. And some people are hating it and rating it 2 burgers. And other people are correct and seeing it as a masterpiece. And for once, I found myself, on the other side of that. I found this a difficult watch. It's not a film I hated, but I did find it a very difficult watch that requires quite a lot of thought to get everything from it. But I will argue that there's a lot to get from this film.
Yeah, I agree. You had more problem with the first part of the film,
Yes.
where I had more problems with the second half being so slow. The first half was intriguing, and then the slow motion escape just really bothered me. It carried on too long, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, I found that really interesting that we were totally flipped on this film, but we both liked the same bit. I think we both really loved the flashback. And
oh, the flashback was great. The
yeah,
high contrast black and white, just the trippy imagery, and just the thought of dunking myself into black oil that never ends well.
yeah. No, but it was the way it was presented was great. I mean, I felt I was missing out on a fair amount because doing the research on this, and there's not too much written about it, but that was apparently the black oil was and the way it was shot. Let me get that image back up again. This gave me some real like 1990s Marilyn Manson video feels. Apparently, it's a very specific allusion to a film, which I didn't get it.
I didn't get it either, but it reminds me of mid 80s industrial music videos, Die Krupps, Einstürzenden Neubauten, which of course I butchered saying it, but
I'm not going to judge anyone on that, don't worry. Here's a good shout. Devonte reminds me of Samara Morgan's videotape. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So that's The Ring for anyone not catching that. Yeah, there is definitely imagery in that is very reminiscent. In fact, what I'll put out here is that a real key to working with this film is to know that it's extremely referential, really deliberately so. And that's all about how it's creating the vibes. And maybe we'll just highlight a few of them. It could be a reference to it. I wondered if there was some Portal energy going in there that I like, but some of the most obvious energy that's in this, I mean, we have to say it right. It's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, with the set pieces and yeah, flat out 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah,
the way it was filmed and the film quality that he used is, as I told you when we were discussing it before this, all I could see is, if you'd told me, if I got into this cold not knowing that this was a 20-teens production, I would have sworn it was a Michael Mann film from the late 70s, early 80s, just because of the pace and the color and the synth, everything like that. So stylized.
Yeah. Do you have any Tarkovsky? Have you seen any Tarkovsky? I'm afraid I haven't. The Enriab has said it's similar to Andrei Tarkovsky. I'm afraid
that's Solaris, right?
Yes, Solaris. Yeah, that's the only one I know, but I haven't seen any. So I'm afraid
seen the remake. I haven't seen the original.
Apologies. I mean, this is going to be full of references, so I'm just working through some of the more obvious 2001 ones. So this right at the start has the central pyramid. Now, of course, pyramid is kind of their stand-in for the obelisk, if you will. But the most important thing is this red iris. It's just like Hell's iris. We'll get you a few more of them.
60s and 70s New Age pyramid power, even into the 80s too.
Yeah.
It's
But in here, we've also got obelisks.
Yep.
Yeah. We've got Kubrickian 2001 obelisks thrown in the room, which does all the controlling and suppressing of powers. And you're remembering that the obelisk in 2001 is effectively your gatekeeping of evolutionary stages. So there we go. The Sentienauts, I thought, are incredibly like. Let's just go with this one. This image of the Sentienaut. I think I have another. I don't think I have the clearest one here, actually, so we might have to stick with that. But I'll get you the colouring here. So that's the spacesuit from 2001. And looking at that, the Sentienaut armour, and then let's contrast it with this scene when she's doing her escape. And this really made me think of, again, the end of 2001 with, is it Bowman encountering multiple versions of himself? And by the way, this made me go completely on an interpreting tangent where I'd gone wildly off. I went back and read the plot summary and realized I'd wildly misinterpreted the ending because I was seeing it through the 2001 lens, but maybe we'll get into that later.
Yeah, the corpse there that comes to life, but the other thing that the Sentienaut reminded me of was have you seen The Black Hole from Disney, late 70s?
I haven't. No.
Okay. It reminds me of a combination of the zombie robot slaves that the good doctor uses and his primary robot, Maximilian. Like, they shoved one of the zombie slaves into the battle robot. That was...
Maybe I should see this. It sounds grim.
As a Disney movie, it's very grim, especially at the end where they go into the black hole and see visions of hell.
Goodness. I think we might have to check this one out, Murgoot. I'm intrigued. In terms of other references, here is, I mean, this has got to be a reference to Cube, right?
Cube.
Which was 1997, so long before this. But yeah. That's a good catch.
Cube, THX 1138. You could even say the elevator shaft and ventilation shaft scenes in Die Hard. A lot of people have used this trope.
Yeah. It's I just thought this very specific angle really made me think of that, of Cube, especially since it's about escaping from an institution that is experimenting on you, you know. The way she gets in and out of those holes was just perfect. Really made me think of Cube. You said there was another movie, so THX 1138. Yeah,
George Lucas's premiere film.
Was there a specific visual with that you thought they were referencing?
Just the escape through the tunnel.
Okay.
Granted, it was somewhat in vehicles, but it was still the confined space and the just the claustrophobia of it and the fear of something happening and losing control and killing yourself.
Okay. What about Altered States? That was another one you mentioned. That's not one I've seen.
It's a body horror from the early 80s where a guy goes on a mission and goes to Mexico, discovers a tribal hallucinogen, and he takes it back with him and starts using it it sounds Joe Rogan-esque, where sensory deprivation tank, and he keeps taking it, he overdoses and starts devolving into a Neanderthal.
Ooh. I can see the link to this then, because like we specifically see Dr. Nile take the hallucinogen, but he goes in the opposite way. He
ascends rather than descends.
Yeah.
If you can call it ascension.
Well, I'm thinking of, how can I say, I don't want to go Whig history. I don't want to go full progressive. I would say like it's a very distinct evolution, which has it has its pros, its cons. I think the next stage of evolution will always look a bit weird to wherever you are, and that's a 2001 thing, which I always thought has great horror potential.
Yeah, too much evolution is bad, and devolution can be very bad too.
No, Murgoot. Rev turn to monkey.
Oh,
we have to rev turn.
Literally, in the case of Altered States, it's one that I haven't seen it in about 10 years. I've got to rewatch it. I'd recommend watching it myself. Watching it too.
I'm intrigued.
It's got William Hurt and Drew Barrymore.
Oh, young Drew Barrymore, I'm guessing.
Very.
Okay, cool. We've had a couple of super chats. I'll just address them. This is Patrick Batman here is basically being our gateway here, our sentinel, I suppose I should say, if we're talking 2001, because he can move us very nicely onto a topic here. So Patrick Batman sending £10. Thank you ever so much. This is about the boomer mindset through the decades, the optimistic new age thinking of the 60s with the human potential movement, which uses pyramids, was meant to be for people's benefit. I very much agree. My reading went a bit off from the official summary, but I very much took that. And I think we can develop that a bit when we get through some of the imagery. But yeah, absolutely. There is, for all the trippy, trancy visuals, there is quite a strong vibe of that through there, quite a strong countercultural in the sense of like the current culture vibe. Very similar to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, actually, the 78 version. Very similar of kind of, we've been through the New Ageism, we've been through flower power. Oh no, look at where we are. Oh no, dear God. And Patrick Batman has followed. I think you're probably hitting the character limits there. So thank you for sending an extra super chat. Much appreciated. So following on, so the human potential movement was meant to be for people's benefit, leading to cynical, darker experiments like the Oak Ridge experiments, Dr. Elliot Barker administering LSD to psychopaths and scopolamine to prisoners. Now, I don't know about Oak Ridge. Murgoot, have you seen any of that?
I've heard about it. I'm not too familiar with it, but scopolamine to prisoners? Wow. The scopolamine is the zombie drug. They become very, very easily influenced. If you give them enough, they're basically zombies that will do anything you tell them. They women gangsters in Colombia use a form of scopolamine to trap men and giving them all their money, taking everything out of the ATM, getting them beaten and left in alleys. And they have.
Could they not just use family courts?
And the men
I'm traditional.
No memory of what happened to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nasty, nasty stuff.
Yeah. The deployment of psychedelics for brainwashing is very interesting. Also, obviously, you start thinking, was it Project Bluebell? And the one where the CIA ran a brothel and doped up customers.
Oh, yeah.
What's it called? Was that Bluebell? And of course, MK Ultra, which a certain famous mathematician.
Yeah. and a
ended up
certain
being
cult
subjected
leader serial killer named Charles Manson
to.
was
Oh,
also part of the experiment.
yeah. Very
Um,
dark sides, yeah. Thank you, Patrick Batman, very much for the super chat there. Yeah, I mean, you're on the money. This theme is inherently in there from what we see in the flashback of we've got a very nice earthy nature thing, like heck, we've called it Arborea.
the
And
CIA brothel experiment was
Oh,
known
yeah.
as Midnight Climax.
Oh, there we go. Darn it. I was way off. I was absolutely way off. There you go, Midnight Climax. Do your own. Actually, there's a channel called Moon who has quite a couple of good videos about that. So you can watch his channel if you want to know that I'm not just losing it and making stuff up. There you go. But yes. Oh, where was I going with that? So yeah, in the story of Beyond the Black Rainbow, you have this lab set up in the 1960s, which is all about nature and promise, reaching serenity through technology, which is like your pure progressivism there. It's your tech will make us all better. It will perfect us on the way to giving us just serenity, bliss.
Techno hippies.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Wall-E basically makes a similar criticism, but this is much harsher on that. When we see, let's get that guy up again. And this also struck me massively as resembling imagery in 2001. But in this is your founder, and you see this is what his pursuit leads him to. He is just in a chair getting stoned all the time, and he's happy. He's very happy. Yeah. Sorry, Murgoot, I could
fully dissolute.
Yes, he thinks everything's going well, isn't he? You also see that when he's getting the injections, he's been injected with his hedonism-causing agent, whatever it is, probably morphine. I know he was getting dosed with. We saw melatonin to help make him sleep. His veins are so done that they have to start injecting in the veins in the feet.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an incredibly powerful criticism of where you go if your only aim is more happiness, more serenity.
And he thanks Dr. Nile for it too, even as he was dying.
Yeah. But he has no cares. He's completely detached. He's gone through the full New Age process, and he has detached himself from traditional society, freed himself of all the entrapments of society and relationships. You know, when his wife is killed, he's like, okay, that's cool. Anyway, progress. And then he'll even dunk his daughter as part of the project. So he is a man completely cut off from the traditional restrictions. He's ultimately liberalized and able to just seek pleasure. Now, this is an
beyond
absolutely
liberalized.
biting
He's a
criticism.
utopian.
Oh, yes. Yeah, totally. Now, that gets even more interesting when we go into him having done that. So he's a representation. What follows him? That's really interesting. Now, Dr. Nile, our main character, let's get him up there. Whilst he's enjoying the delicious Suspiria lighting, we'll get that on him. What's really interesting is, what does Dr. Arborea produce? Well, it's Dr. Nile. Nile, obviously nihilistic. How would you say? I'm just spouting off on one here, Murgoot. So, how do you think it's portraying the results of Arborea on Dr. Nile?
It's on the surface, subtly wrong. Underneath the surface, psychotic. That's just how it is. I can't put my finger on it, but something's wrong here. And then, oh my God, this guy is he's completely destroyed his mind with this.
Did you have any sympathy for him?
Not really.
Okay.
It's because he's so uncanny valley. I don't have sympathy for him.
Mm.
Didn't through the entire film.
Okay. I was wondering if they wanted us to get a little bit like the scene where he talks to the second scene with his wife. I found really interesting because he just sees her stoned out of her head the whole time, watching TV, which I think is the extension of the boomer criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's responded to that, and he's kind of just become in this new environment, I think, all about the drive, I'm free from restriction and I can drive and shape the world, basically. And other considerations don't matter. But you see what he's gone through, like the fact that he gets immersed in black liquid, which shows us visions of him being basically, well, broken down to like cellular level.
Mm-hmm.
I read that as basically a sort of deracination process, a sort of uprooting, a de-individualization, depersonalization situation, which leaves him extremely unsure of who he is.
Yeah. Dr. Arboria put him through the process to strip him down completely and start building him back up. And it was, after I saw that, it's definite case of came back wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when you see him and he's, okay, it's hard to be sympathetic, but him seeing his wife and he takes his appliances off, which again, they are so referencing American Psycho 100%. It made me just think of Patrick Bateman taking off his mask of sanity, you know, the whole I keep this on for other people thing. When he takes off the wig, he takes out the contacts, you see him trying to, you see how much he's had to try and conform and perform, but it doesn't suit him at all. And I felt quite sympathetic for him because he's been immersed. He's in this analogy. The boomer culture, the freeing, the extreme liberalism, the focus on progressing and liberalizing, serenity through technology has effectively had this completely deracinating, deconstructing process on him to the point that he doesn't know where he is. And he struggles to keep up, you know? That's how I read that. And okay, he's an evil, creepy dude, but I think he showed quite a bit of vulnerability in that scene.
He did, but it just came off wrong. And somebody imitating human actions to me. And the Dr. Arboria's utopian drive, I think Vienreb came up with it. The utopian ideals of the boomer meets, well, the next generation who has to deal with it and has been brought up inside of it, and they think they're doing well at the same time that things have gone horribly awry and not realizing it.
Yeah.
Or he thinks he's ascended beyond the black rainbow, where he's merely become an amoral psychopath, just going for what he wants.
I could go with that. Do you have a read on, let's see. Do you have a read on why it's called Beyond the Black Rainbow?
Yeah, it's mentioned that it's going beyond the rainbow to utopia, and the black oil has influenced him, and he sees, at least I thought I interpreted it as in the flashback, that when he ascended, he went past the black symbol of hope and onto his ascension. And that's the closest. It's his analogy of what he's been through. I've ascended past the black rainbow and beyond the black rainbow. And that was the goal. And all he's done is made a monster out of himself.
He's definitely seen things in a totally different way. I mean, they represent that by having him have very distorted eyes, which I really liked. I thought those looked cool. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And then when he takes off the appliances and puts on his Arborea Institute cultic gear, he basically puts on leather body armor and the single glove, and he doesn't have the appliances. It makes him, I mean, it truly takes him to the mad scientist level, the Dr. Evil grade. I kind of laughed when he put on leather.
It's a bit Dark City, I thought, is what he was going for. I thought that was possibly an influence. I mean, the knife really made me think of some of the imagery in the absolutely excellent Dark City. If you haven't watched it, it's brilliant.
Oh yeah, I've seen Dark City many times. It also reminds me of the reveal in Michael Mann's The Keep, where the villain isn't a vampire per se. He's more of a demonic entity, and he's completely black, whereas Dr. Niles' face is human but changed, but it's still, in the lighting that it's given, it just reminded me of Michael Mann with that.
I'm missing out from not having seen the Michael Mann films, but
yeah.
We know they're emulating that sort of grainy look from the time as well, that raw viscerality. I kept getting thrown off by the term Black Rainbow there. Now, I know the NREAB has posted a quote from Cosmatos that the Black Rainbow is an unattainable goal, that the Black Rainbow is trying to achieve some kind of unattainable state that is ultimately destructive. And I got Black Rainbow is kind of, it's an obvious oxymoron, it's contradiction in terms. And by trying to, I mean, Dr. Prep is talking about this right now. It's oxymoronic. How can you have a black rainbow? But I think the idea is to try and say that our perspective is completely limited. And this film is a lot about that. So Eleanor, her whole life has this completely limited perspective. She's trapped inside an institute. And she will escape it, but how much she actually escapes is a question. Can be very questioned, and we will.
Beyond
so this
the
idea
black
that
rainbow, the
present,
ultimate dark utopia for some.
Well, I just couldn't get around the idea of a rainbow is a splitting of light. Now, you typically use split white light, which is, you'd split it typically in a prism. So, and the fact that we saw quite a few of them, I'll get it up again. We see this prism, makes me think of light splitting a lot. And then that threw me off, right? Like, if he's a guy who's been through it, what you do when you go through the prism is you are separated. And so when I was seeing this, the fact that we saw Elena split as well, when she's escaping, hang on. So she's seen splitting and fractured, right? As if she's passed through the prism for the Black Rainbow, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, and so when what she encounters, I thought was just lots of versions of him, the version of him split by the prison. So when she encounters this old bro, this really rancid, rotten old dude, I thought that was one aspect of Dr. Nile. I thought that the Sentinel was actually, where is he? I thought this was like the young version of him, and it was also in doing this, it was referencing 2001, where you meet yourself at different ages. So I was convinced with all of this that the Beyond the Black Rainbow was a reference to how this perception completely fragments and splits Dr. Nile up.
I like
it turns
that
out I'm totally
interpretation.
wrong.
It's I like it. It's more complex than mine, but I was seeing it more as reaching for the goal and coming to the realization at the end that the goal is nihilism. The goal is...
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it could be right. I mean, the idea of pitching this, so much of this is pitched at us in a way that we're clearly meant to feel limited. So, like, of course, the dipping sequence here is meant to really convey to us we are not grasping it. We see so little of the screen because it's literally telling us you're not able to comprehend it. But I just got hooked on the rainbow thing, and then I started interpreting wildly about that. So
I don't blame you. It's a good interpretation. I took a more brutal approach to it than thinking about it.
Fine.
I should have. I really should have thought it in terms of the rainbow. I was seeing more of the end goal rather than the travel through it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes sometimes it's just the imagery really does send me down a path. Here's another one that sent me down one strain of analysis and made me think, oh, this has got to be super relevant. Did this make you think of anything?
Yeah, the void.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say an eye in a pyramid.
That too
makes me think of certain things, you know.
Yeah. My thought was seeing beyond the void, even though the void was made well after this, but
yeah,
I'm just kind of, yeah. As I said, I take the more brutalist approach than you do.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. There are I mean, maybe let's deal with that subtle. See, I'm not crazy. Other people are picking up on this. This is deliberate imagery we see really, really early on. And if this is some New World Order imagery, folks, I'm not doing the tinfoil. It's okay. It kind of makes sense in the context of the film because the Arboria Institute does want to do institutional change, and by the end of the film, it kind of looks like they have.
Yeah.
I'll throw this in now. Did you see the after credit scene? It's very short.
The action figure. I just didn't mention it because I didn't really think anything of it aside from, oh, that's cute, the Sentient.
Yeah. So when she escapes, you know, she comes out, she gets to the boundary. You think of Cube, and we didn't really see where someone escaped until the second film. I wouldn't recommend the second film. What we see here is she comes out, and all she sees is utter conformity. Like, those houses are identical. And there's just the glow of the TV in one that's drawing her like a moth to the flame. So it's like, has she actually escaped, or like, where is this free world? Because she's coming out and she's hitting a burb, which is absolutely sort of atomized individualism, and she's just going to be drawn into this. It's the new trap. There's a TV in her cell, and here's a TV in her new cell. And when you get to the after credit scene, it's a Sentient toy.
Yeah.
Which looks like it could be on a carpet. So if it's a toy, presumably a kid's playing with it. It just makes me think, yeah. It makes me think that they're saying Arboria has actually changed the world.
Yeah.
And I got a notification there from, oh, interesting. From the NRAB. Okay, I'm going to, the NRAB, I'm going to get that on screen for us. So we've got an extra clarification on the black rainbow. So a black rainbow is the inverse of a normal rainbow, where water droplets reflect light away from the viewer. And I'll get us that image now. I'll also zoom out a bit. That's fascinating. I've never seen that before.
I've seen double rainbows, but I didn't realize the
black bit. Yeah.
band. Yeah.
Okay. It goes deeper. It goes deeper in the interpretation. So you get me interpreting. I just go off on one. But yeah, so going back to this escape, I really like this ending. This is that air of cynicism. So like continuing with our reading, we have to take a kind of generational read, don't we? So we've got the boomers, we've got Dark Denial is basically Gen X, but the boomers give birth to the millennials. And in this case, Elena would be a millennial. And you see that whereas Dr. Nile gets immersed in the black liquid, which I guess is kind of like
drinking the Kool-Aid.
Drinking the Kool-Aid, yeah, sure. Your induction into the society, the new way of being, the tradition destroying new culture, however you want to take it. But Elena, he's an adult, so he's seen normality when he goes into that. Whereas Elena is dropped in as an infant, and she knows nothing else.
Yep.
Yeah, I found that quite powerful and very easy to relate to be honest. That thing of
she escapes one prison of horrors to a larger prison of comfortable. Comfortable living.
I mean, people might say it's a trite criticism, but I think it's presented extremely well. Also, Dr. Prepper with Millennial, yes, yeah, nicely done. Terrible disavow, but yeah, I think it's good. It's a really good expression of the thing because she knows nothing else and she will know nothing else because it's all gone for her. So she didn't really know the world before.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like how I see with Zoomers. There's a thing going around this week. I'm not having a go at Zoomers or anything, but a thing going around about them asking questions about what it was like pre-internet. Like, what did you just went out the house and no one knew where you were? What? And it's like, yeah, we did.
Oh yeah, it's. I know the British experience was far tamer than what I did. Granted, I'm also you're a millennial, I'm Gen X, and things were very different. And even then, and the American experience of Gen X was very different than what Britain had to offer.
I'm sure.
I mean, I had my first hunting license at 7 years old. We played with everything up to M80s and cherry bombs, quarter sticks of dynamite, effectively. I knew how to build a campfire by 6. I knew how.
Based.
It's one of those that. I mean. I was 9 or 10 when I'd take the bus by my city bus, not school bus, city bus to school. 10 or 11 by myself or with my sister. I'd take, before I got my first car, before I started borrowing my dad's car on work days, I'd walk 2 miles to my high school.
Yeah.
By myself.
Very similar experience. I walked is it 2 miles? I think it was about 1.5 miles to my school or something, but I'm going across fields on my own, you know. I live quite rurally, and it's just if you do any work with youth groups, it's like you can't send the kids out on their own ever. They have to be collected constantly. It's like, oh my goodness. And
Yeah.
it's a totally different existence. It's kind of, I think kids are seeing stuff like Stranger Things and going like, oh my gosh. But
It's
there's an interesting comment about obviously we've talked about the influences this film took, but
oh yeah.
I think other things might have, if they've seen it, you know, the idea of the Stranger Things really quite liking this as an influence for the 11 story, because I can kind of see it, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought so too. It's just one of those things. I mean, Stranger Things was taken off of the Montauk experiment. They ran with it. Worst case scenario kind of thing. Which, something to look up.
Yeah, that's a new one to me. I'm afraid I haven't heard of that.
It's turns out it was just a standard lab. Let's see. I'll put it in the DMs.
Go for it. I think I was wondering if the void might have been inspired by this as well, just because of how intense a triangle imagery was. And there was a couple of other things I noticed. Sorry to sort of veer off from this. That I thought was quite a nice subtlety. Was when I noticed that the Institute was talking to him.
Yeah.
So it was only in this scene, but when you talked about is her name Margot, the assistant who uncovers his contraband.
Yeah, and she's really harsh to Elena.
Yeah. I think he very much wanted her to find that, to be honest. Just like he gave Yeah, totally. He gave Elena contraband, and then he gave Margot contraband. I think he was doing the same play. But when he gets a call about it informing him, you notice like the sound is very difficult, and then you see a close-up of an unplugged telephone feed. So I think it's like telling you before you get full confirmation that basically he is on another plane. He is connecting just with the house. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah. And then realizing that nobody's there besides him and Margot and Elena.
Yeah. I was torn over that, whether that was just a budget thing.
I don't know. It works into the story well. And I can't pronounce an orange notepad. Cherry bomb like the Runaways. Yes, the name cherry bomb refers to the firework, which is basically a quarter stick of dynamite that they used to be able to sell. They don't sell them anymore.
Oh.
But it's yes, and another when I was young story. It's my father was a music teacher at a high school, and one of the senior prank days, they would toss cherry bombs into toilets and blow them off the walls.
It's one of those things I've read about, but it's one of those you just wonder, like, oh gosh, will they that actually happened? But evidently it did.
Lawn darts only at garage sales.
Goodness. This scene here might be a good jumping off point for another thing I think we've been quite nice about the film, and we've been praising the messaging, which I think is genuinely challenging, genuinely unusual, really not something that you typically see discussed. But maybe this is a point where we'll maybe bring in some of the difficulties with the film. So My hearing is not great. And one of the things that made this difficult was that a lot of this is deliberately hard to hear. Also, scraps of writing you see are deliberately obscured, so you're not quite catching them. I know that's deliberate to an extent because there's a trance-like vibe, but I found it very hard, straining to hear for a lot of the film. And I didn't want to cheat by putting the subtitles on because I think I knew we were meant to just be catching things, but it made it difficult.
My main problem was the pacing. God, you could easily cut a half an hour out of the film and still have a complete film. You mentioned offline that you could do a Black Mirror episode at 40 or 45 minutes and have it be complete. I still think cutting it down to 70 or 80 minutes and getting rid of the stoner scene and cutting down the slow motion escape.
Yeah, I mean, all of that. My biggest problem with it is the pacing. And I saw comments even from the NREAB who requested this was that the first watch was done at 1.5 to 2 times speed, and I totally get it. This film is delivering a mood, it is delivering a feel, a vibe, but it is very, I have to say, punishingly slow. And again, it made me think of 2001, the way it was kind of advertised as, what they say, like the most amazing trip of the year. Like they were trying to tell you basically, take drugs when you see the film. There's a little bit like that, you know. But it was so difficult to get into. Now, there are films that are extremely slow that I like. So 2001. Barry Lyndon would be a good one. Let's go with a later one. Let's talk about something like Under the Skin. I don't mind a slow movie, but I was struggling with the pace, and I did just keep thinking I got a kind of I was okay with the tone and the pace if it was trying to set the mood, but we never came out of it, so it was very draining, and I just really wanted it to pick up. Like I was wondering if because Elena's powers are suppressed for most of the film, if that kind of drowsy vibe was the suppression, but then, yeah, when she came out of it, it didn't really pick up much. So
I don't know.
This is brutal for Zoomers. They'll never get through this.
With all it just dawned on me that the second half was slow and interminable, and it just hit me that it was the only time that it's been slower for me was watching Andy Warhol's Empire or 4 Star, which is just 6 hours of imagery. It's just it was just slow, and it felt slower as time went on. And like the NREAB, I wish I could have watched it in 2 times.
Yeah.
The first time I watched it.
I mean, look, I came away thinking it established a mood incredibly effectively, but I'm not sure that's a mood you would want. I think you could have got a good vibe and this trance-like state quite well, but I wouldn't have made the whole movie like that. Yeah. So I did come away thinking all the ideas in this are quite delicious, and I would happily see them in like a 45-minute, hour-long. You can do an hour-long Black Mirror now.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's just there was a lot of mood setting, and it's very difficult when, say, Dr. Nile speaks very slowly. He's incredibly controlled and patient, and Elena is suppressed and traumatized and basically non-reactive. So a scene of someone talking very slowly to someone who doesn't react at a very slow pace is... This film has lots of good stuff in it, but the pace is torment.
The pace killed it for me. It's just, like I said, you could cut 40 minutes out of this easily and have a very good, well-paced film.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people seem to concur here. So, yeah, brutal for Zoomers. I hate making the complaint because I feel like, yeah, our attention spans have been attacked, but hoo-wee.
And Henriette was right. This film is not Harrian friendly.
Oh, not a chance. He would not have made it through. Not a chance. He'd have been very upset about Margot working the buttons, I think. Justifiably. But yeah, it was a tricky thing. The other idea is how can I say? So I was trying to work out what he was doing. I was trying to work out what the director was trying to get onto here by doing this vibe. And I saw the quotation from him that he wanted to make a film that was like a half remembered dream of a film that hadn't been made. And that explains a lot of this, because the iconography is incredibly strong and incredibly recognizable, borderline copyright infringing. And then you have bits that seem absolutely cliche, like the metalheads getting killed.
Yeah.
And that comes out of nowhere, but it's also so cliche. And I just thought, oh, I see what he's doing. You could easily think that you'd seen bits of this movie elsewhere, and something as generic as the metalheads getting killed. Yeah, that kind of fits with that. I get that. So it's a clever idea. Although I found myself wondering why he wanted to do that.
Yeah. An Orange Notepad. Yes, he did Mandy, which I absolutely loved. It's hilariously horrifying, and it's great. I really enjoyed that one.
I'm looking forward to watching after this. I think if the director, because oh, sorry, darn it, what's his name again? Panos Cosmatos. If he was doing this specifically for, this pace, this vibe specifically for Beyond the Black Rainbow versus being his general style, then I'd prefer that. But okay, I'm seeing more praise from Mandy in the chat, so I am intrigued. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to watch this. Gosh, what was there was another thing I was going to say about it. No, I think it was basically just the pace. The pace was really something I struggled with. And if the pace is the point, then it might just be that the film isn't made for me the way that Mulholland Drive, which I absolutely love, is not for other people.
Yeah, Mulholland Drive is okay. I prefer Lost Highway and Blue Velvet, but that's just me.
That's all good. That's good. We got a request here, Patrick Batman. What did we think of the file that Margot finds? Did you have any thoughts on that, Murgoot?
Yuck. Very intriguing, but very yuck.
Yeah, there's something I noticed with it. Okay, obviously you see, say, some violent imagery and you're not sure what you're seeing. It's a thing where there's lines of text in there, but they're deliberately obscured, so you're not sure what you see. And then it moves as we go from the sort of original stuff around what looked like New Age imagery. We go into increasingly sexual imagery, including like very graphic genital close-ups, and then full-on graphic genital close-ups in the notepad. And it just kind of struck me how much more you're kind of seeing that now.
Yeah.
Like, it was obviously you saw full frontal before, but the sort of graphic anatomical detail is new. I saw the movie Men from, I want to say 2002 recently. By the way, I will stand up for that. That's a really good film. But that has levels of, say, anatomical detail that I have never seen in a movie before. And I was quite shocked by that, to be honest.
Yeah. I'll talk to you later about that one. But
no, fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, I'm getting that a lot of people didn't like Men. I am close to how can I say, one of my next long projects I think is going to have to be a defense of that film, because I think it was rather misinterpreted. But if you're wondering, there is a on my Twitter, someone linked me an amazing article about Men. I don't think I'm going to be able to look it up now. Darn it. I will link it when I do the video on Men, but someone did an excellent, thorough analysis of it. But yeah, sorry. Anyway, the use of that very...
Yes, it could be a 70 or 80 minute movie easily and still hold together very well.
Mostly because it's just a scene that would maybe take 30 seconds takes about 3 minutes. There's just a lot of slow mood walking and considerations. It runs at a very slow pace. So, yes. Yeah, where are we? That's all I really took away from the book. I found it slightly disturbing. I was a bit shocked by what I saw, which I think had the effect. It was the way it suggested to me that the scientific principles basically gave way to what were really more sort of basic lusts, which is, I think, what you'd really kind of expect is the kind of thing that comes out of the failure of this project, that when they went for higher-minded ideals, higher thinking, new age thought, expanding the horizons, ultimately what you end up with is people fulfilling much more primitive desires, sitting on their ass being high all the time, basically, or enacting on lust, because you can't really take that out. It's very built in, even in super evolved beings like Dr. Nile.
Wow, Super Nanny's on our case. It's 3:35.
All right. Lates in the chat, boys. Post them if you got them. Post those Super Nannies.
I guess I should give my score.
We should probably do that. I mean, that is basically everything I wanted to say about it. Murgoot, did you have anything else?
Great premise, suffered from pacing and scenes that weren't necessary. I would give it, because of your analysis and thinking back, I'll give it a 7 burgers with some ketchup.
7 burgers with ketchup. Yeah, there was a fair... Oh, there we go. There's your man. Sorry, just say John Graham with the excellent review. Can you post if you are up to it, if you want to post the name of your analysis so people can find it, because that really was amazing. Post something people can Google for it, because it really was rather excellent and it deserves crediting. Made me think, there's some perspectives I want to put into that are, I think, sufficiently different that I can justify making it, and I won't just be ripping you off. I will have to credit you quite extensively. Anyway, so we've gone for 7 burgers with ketchup. By the way, chat, get your scores in if you fancy. And we're watching it for them. We got an early bid of a 4 from the Alabastard, understandably. Yeah, potential but gruelingly slow. Yes. I hope people who are fans of the film don't feel that we've done it hard, that's been hard done by here. For me, I think it's an incredibly original vision. It's daring, it's challenging, so much so that it had to kind of hide its commentary under a lot of symbolism. But once you see what it's saying, it's really challenging a lot of societal preconceptions. That helps. That helps a lot. The design is great. It's wonderfully constructed. Norm Lee's cinematography is excellent. I really like it. The sort of faux 80s is... I've got a soft spot for it, as anyone will know from my praise for House of the Devil. I'm a big fan of the faux 80s vibe. But gosh darn it, that pace, absolutely punishing. So, and what it was doing was largely done extremely well. I'm just not always sure why it was done that way. I mostly think of the scene with the heavy metal guys as being a big problem. It just seems so out of nowhere. And then we got quite the anticlimax when he's actually killed. So for me, how can I say? It's something that I'm probably going to lean at a 7 as well. But it would be cautious. This is basically one that I probably wouldn't recommend to most people. I would only recommend it if I knew they liked elevated horror, if they were a Kubrick fan, if they liked, say, Possession, if they liked Altered States, if I knew they were into, yeah, if they were into that, I would recommend it, and I'd recommend it and say, look, you probably go for this. You probably go for it, but I wouldn't recommend it to most people. That's a kind of barrier on it for me. So yeah, I come out at a cautious 7, which is not to say it's bad. It's something that I found quite a lot in, but I can't see myself rewatching just because of the pace of it. So that would be my score. All right. Oh, and Devontae, thank you. I started reading your Scream script. Thank you very much. I found it. So I need to finish it, but yeah, I did start reading, and you'd come at it from a very interesting angle. I want to see where you take it. John Graham, is it on YouTube? If you mean this film, yes, it's on YouTube, but only in about 360p. So Tubi has it. You should be able to find it. Oh, and we've got a later input from the NREAB. Visuals and audio could make it 9 to 10, but pacing could make it a 5 for most people. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Some clever, judicious editing, mostly consisting of speeding it up, could bring it up to 7 to 8 for most people. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of those ones where people absolutely love it. It's going to be an 11 for a lot of people and a 3 for others. Very tough vibe to get to. Very tough vibe indeed. But some people are going to love it, and I hope the people that did love it felt that we did a good coverage of it. Yeah. All right. Well, that is everything for now. We've given the scores. We've given the review. Now, I would give you the horror homework at this point. We have a slight issue in that my February is going to be somewhat messy. I've got a lot of commitments in the evenings. So I am going to have to be quite judicious about where I do a stream. A lot of February I will not be able to stream, but I might be able to get one in right at the start on Thursday the 1st, so next Thursday, and I might be able to get one in right at the end. So I will work on my schedule. I'll see what I can do. I realised I put up a poll for people to vote on things, and the later Christopher Smith films won. Although I don't know, I didn't see the I didn't see a like an extremely enthusiastic response to that one. So I don't know. Maybe people didn't really want Christopher Smith. Who knows? But I would need 3 films to cover him, and we're not going to manage that. So I might just do member requests, and I'll try and get another part of the horror shorts, because I really liked when we last did horror shorts. That was good fun. So we'll see what we can do. Bear with me, and I'll put announcements in when I can. That is everything from me. So massive thanks to everyone in the chat, keeping it nice and lively. To everyone on the rewatch, you guys are solid. Please do like if you haven't already. Big thanks to all super chatters. That is very much appreciated. And Murgoot, of course, absolute star coming in here, lending a perspective. And you'd seen so many things that feed into this that I hadn't. Really helpful.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me again.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And I hope it's not too long until we stream again. February is going to be complex.
Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah. Oh, I want to sign off with one more thing. Guys, movie recommendation from me. I rewatched it recently, and I'd seen it 10 years ago. On the rewatch, it was astounding. Guys, if you're looking for something to watch, can I strongly recommend Martha, Marcy May, Marlene. It's a subtle, I guess you would call it post-horror, with Elizabeth Olsen and Sarah Paulson. Really good stuff. If you liked Midsommar, I think you'll probably like Martha, Marcy May, Marlene. Really good stuff. All right. And I just because I rewatched it, I was blown away, and I thought I've got to give you guys a recommendation. So there we go. All right. I hope to see you soon. I will drop horror homework when I've got it. But in the meantime, really enjoyed this one tonight. We'll be back soon with more Vincent Price, Slice of Price, and then more streams soon. All right. Thanks, y'all. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.